In a world built on illusion, power rarely belongs to the most talented. It belongs to the most convincing. You could be intelligent, moral, even wise, but if you don't act like the best, you'll be treated like the worst. Today, we're going to destroy the disease of self-erasure, that quiet, invisible decay that makes powerful men shrink when they should expand. Let me ask you something, not as a friend, but as a strategist. When you walk into a room, what happens to the air? Do people notice your presence, or do you vanish into the background like furniture? Because here's a hard truth. People don't see your inner worth. They see your projection. They don't see your depth. They see your performance. You could be kind, skilled, even brilliant. But if your presence doesn't command, it gets dismissed. Your body language speaks before you ever say a word. Your tone decides whether you're heard or ignored. Your energy determines whether people respect you or test you. The world doesn't run on truth. It runs on perception. And perception is the weapon by which you either rise to power or fade into obscurity. The man who understands this doesn't beg for respect. He assumes it. He doesn't enter a room hoping to be liked. He enters as if the air itself belongs to him. And the strangest part? Even if he doesn't deserve that confidence, he still gets it. Because this world doesn't reward virtue, it rewards theater. Think about it. You've seen the loud fool who becomes a leader, the charming liar who wins loyalty, the mediocre man who walks like a king. Meanwhile, the quiet genius sits in the corner, hoping someone will notice his worth. But no one does, because perception is power, and perception is reality. If you carry yourself as powerful, people will treat you that way. If you hesitate, if you flinch, they'll smell weakness and devour you. Power isn't only earned, it's performed. The man who walks slowly, speaks selectively, and locks eyes without flinching, people assume he's in control, even if he's still learning. Why? Because humans don't follow logic. They follow dominance cues. We're still animals, just better dressed. You might think, but what if I'm faking it? What if I'm not really confident? Good. Every empire begins with a bluff. Acting as if is the seed from which real confidence grows. When you move like a leader, speak like someone who can't be challenged, people don't respond to your truth. They respond to your image. And over time, the image becomes the truth. The greatest figures in history mastered this illusion. Julius Caesar didn't just conquer nations. He carried himself like destiny itself. Napoleon wasn't tall, but he stood like a giant. Even Machiavelli, a man born without title, wrote like a prince. Why? Because his tone, his presence, his assumption of authority made kings listen. So when you enter a room, stop shrinking. When you speak, stop softening your edges. When you look at others, don't look up, look through. Every social interaction is a silent contest for dominance, and those who understand this rule the room. Those who don't, they serve it. The lie you project, if done well, becomes a truth over time. People will start saying, "He's sharp, he's decisive, he's different." They'll start repeating the myth you designed until eventually it becomes your reality. You are what you project. That's the cruel law of perception. And if you reject this law, if you insist on being authentic, on waiting for others to see your inner goodness, you will be ignored, outmaneuvered, and ruled over by people less capable than you. Because they learned something far more powerful than honesty. They learned presentation. It's not about how to be, it's about how to appear. Not how to earn power, but how to command it. Not how to wait for the crown, but how to wear it before anyone offers it. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until someone validates you. Begin now, because confidence isn't a reward. It's a performance, and those who dare to perform it rule. Confidence isn't arrogance, it's certainty. It's a weapon. The confident man wins battles before they start, because the world bows not to competence, but to conviction. The hesitant, the overly cautious, the nice, they are erased from history, while the bold rewrite it. So, remember this. People don't follow the best man. They follow the man who acts like he knows best. And if you dare to wear that illusion long enough, it becomes real. Now the question is, when you walk into the next room, will you move like someone waiting for permission, or like someone who already owns the place? There's a reason the world bows to the confident man, even when he has nothing to offer. Confidence isn't just a trait, it's a form of hypnosis. It bends reality around the person who dares to wield it. In the war for power, those who command certainty win, and those who hesitate are erased. Here's the brutal secret. People don't follow competence, they follow conviction. The man who speaks with confidence, even when he's wrong, will defeat the man who doubts himself, even when he's right. Because confidence makes people feel safe, and people will always trade truth for safety. Think about it. How many times have you watched someone less intelligent, less capable, less deserving get ahead of you? They didn't outsmart you. They outperformed you in certainty. They moved as if they couldn't lose, and the crowd believed them. The crowd wanted to believe them, because people crave leadership, even if it's built on illusion. And once they've accepted your dominance, something strange happens. They will defend your image, even against reality. They'll justify your mistakes, rewrite your failures, protect the story that says you're powerful. Because now their belief in you sustains their own sense of stability. That's how dangerous confidence is. It becomes contagious. It infects others' perception of you until even your flaws look like strategy. Confidence overrides logic. That's why history remembers so many deceivers as leaders. The overconfident fool who walks like a king will always be treated better than the modest genius who whispers the truth. Why? Because one projects command, and the other projects hesitation. You might think, but I don't want to fake it. Understand this. Everyone is faking something. The difference is that the powerful do it on purpose. Confidence is theater, yes, but it's also transformation. Acting as if you are certain creates the very certainty you lacked. The world doesn't reward those who wait to be validated. It rewards those who validate themselves first. Every time you doubt your worth, you're teaching people how to treat you. Every time you defer, you're building someone else's throne. Here's the Machiavellian truth. Hesitation isn't seen as caution. It's seen as weakness. Self-doubt isn't admired for its humility. It signals vulnerability. And humility without strategy becomes an open invitation for dominance. When you shrink to make others comfortable, when you apologize for existing, when you water down your ideas to be liked, the world doesn't thank you. It forgets you. Confidence isn't volume. It's stillness. It's not arrogance. It's presence. It's the quiet certainty of someone who knows the outcome before it happens. The calm in his tone, the weight in his silence. When you speak, speak as if your words are law. When you walk, walk as if the ground itself acknowledges your existence. When you look someone in the eye, never look away first, because every human interaction is a negotiation of status, and silence, stillness, and certainty are your weapons. The confident man doesn't try to prove himself. He behaves as if there's nothing left to prove. That's what unsettles people. That's what commands their respect. You must see confidence the way a general sees a sword, not as decoration, but as an instrument of survival. Without it, you lose before the battle even begins. With it, you win battles you had no right to win. And make no mistake, the confident man is not fearless. He simply controls his fear so well that others mistake it for strength. He bleeds in private but moves in public like a god. This is why Machiavelli said power must be assumed before it's given. Because once you act as if you deserve the throne, people will build steps beneath your feet. They'll help you rise, not out of love, but out of instinct. Remember this. People want to follow someone who seems certain. They crave it. They're desperate for direction in a world full of noise and confusion. And if no one else is offering that certainty, you must, even when you're unsure, even when you're scared, even when you're improvising every second. Because the moment you show doubt, the illusion collapses and the wolves begin to circle. Reputation is not built on truth. It's built on repetition. Say something often enough, and it becomes who you are. Carry yourself with confidence long enough, and the world will mirror that belief back to you. If you don't tell the world who you are, it will decide for you. And it will decide in ways that diminish you. People will define you to fit their story, not yours. So, take back authorship. This is what every powerful man does. He writes his own legend before anyone else can. He tells the world who he is, loudly, repeatedly, until it becomes fact. Once your image is set, it's nearly impossible to undo. That's why your first impression must be deliberate, ruthless, designed. Because people aren't analyzing your essence. They're reacting to your branding. You could be disciplined, intelligent, capable, but if you don't project it, no one will believe it. And when people don't believe in your value, they won't protect it. So signal intentionally. Shape perception consciously. Don't wait to be noticed. Decide to be seen. The man who controls his image controls the world around him. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who seem untouchable. Do you actually know who they are? Or do you simply believe the story they've crafted about themselves? Because that's the real secret of power. Not authenticity, but authorship. The strongest men don't wait for their image to form naturally. They design it. Every movement, every silence, every glance, every word, all of it reinforces the same narrative. I am in control. Machiavelli said it clearly. Men judge more by the eye than by the hand. People don't experience your reality. They experience your appearance. You are not rewarded for your substance. You are rewarded for your presentation. So craft it, guard it, amplify it. Never give the world the full picture. Give them the version that protects your position. The politician smiles but calculates. The general stands tall even when terrified. The king never flinches, even when he's bleeding beneath the robe. This is not deceit, it's discipline. You don't need to lie, but you must edit. Cut out every part of yourself that doesn't serve your image. Keep mystery where others keep transparency. Reveal only what strengthens your myth. Because here's the truth. People don't want the real you. They want the useful you. The version that satisfies their perception of strength, purpose, certainty. And if you don't provide that version, they'll invent one for you, and it won't serve you. So why not take control? Tell the world who you are, and repeat it until it echoes. I am disciplined. I am decisive. I am inevitable. Say it with your posture, your tone, your stillness, until it becomes a belief not just in their minds, but in your own. Machiavelli wasn't cynical. He was honest about the game. He understood that the world doesn't revolve around truth. It revolves around perception. And the man who shapes perception controls the reality that follows. You must build a myth around yourself. Something unmistakable. Something so consistent that people no longer question it. They enforce it for you. Think of your myth as armor. Every time you act with intent, you forge another plate. Every time you speak with control, you sharpen another edge. Every time you maintain silence instead of explaining, you polish that armor to a mirror shine. And when people look at you, they don't see your doubts. They see their reflection in your myth. That's why great leaders, artists, and conquerors all mastered theater. Their stage was life itself. Caesar paraded his victories before Rome because he understood that image creates loyalty. Napoleon crowned himself because waiting for approval is weakness. Even modern power brokers, CEOs, presidents, visionaries understand this Machiavellian rule. Never wait to be seen. Make seeing you an event. This is the theater of power. Performance backed by purpose. You can be good at what you do, but if no one feels that power radiating from you, they'll overlook you for someone who projects more conviction. Because in the modern world, attention is currency, and attention always flows to confidence. Your task is not to prove your worth. It's to make your worth impossible to ignore. So, how do you begin? Start by mastering the smallest detail, your tone, your posture, your pace. Don't rush. Don't over-explain. When others fill the air with noise, stay silent. Let their anxiety make them reveal themselves. The man who speaks less is always assumed to know more. That's human psychology. People project depth into what they can't read. When you hold eye contact longer than is comfortable, when you pause before you speak, when you choose your words like a blade rather than a blanket, you create unease. But unease breeds respect. Machiavelli called this commanding through absence. You don't dominate by force. You dominate by control. The less they can predict you, the more they fear to cross you. That's how presence becomes power. People don't follow the man who's right. They follow the man who's certain. They don't obey the man who's kind. They obey the man whose confidence makes them second-guess themselves. You must stop trying to be understood. You must stop seeking fairness. The world is not waiting for your truth. It's waiting for your certainty. Perception repeated enough times becomes reality. And once your illusion takes root, it's almost impossible to uproot. Because people are lazy. They'd rather believe the story you've told them than search for the one you hide. So, build the illusion. Protect it. Live it. Because in time, that illusion becomes the man. And the man who commands his image commands his destiny. There's one rule that stands above every other law of power. Assumption shapes reality. Not talent, not luck, not even truth, but the assumptions you carry and project into the world. If a man assumes he's inferior, everything in his posture, his tone, and his choices will reflect that belief. He'll enter rooms apologetically, speak cautiously, and ask permission just to exist. And the world, ever obedient to confidence, will mirror that back to him. It will treat him as small. But the man who assumes he is powerful, even before he has the proof, walks differently. His eyes don't search for approval. His presence demands it. He moves like the world is his by default. And because people respond to confidence more than evidence, they'll treat him as exactly that, powerful. Machiavelli would call this the law of assumption, the principle that the world treats you not according to your truth, but according to what you project as truth. That's why some men rise even with no real advantage. They act as if they were destined to lead, and the world eventually agrees. And that's also why others, far more capable, stay invisible, because they assume they must wait for validation before stepping forward. Most men live like ghosts in their own lives, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be chosen, waiting to be told they're good enough. But here's the reality. No one's coming. No one's going to hand you power. You must assume it. You must decide it. Because power doesn't recognize humility. It recognizes dominance. The man who assumes greatness becomes it, not through arrogance, but through conviction. Conviction radiates authority, and authority magnetizes respect. It's the silent signal beneath every word you say, and every gesture you make, that you belong. That's why confidence isn't built from achievement, it's built from decision. You don't become powerful after you succeed. You succeed because you already act like you are. The question is, what assumptions are running your life right now? Do you assume you must earn attention before speaking? Do you assume you're not ready, not worthy, not qualified yet? Do you assume that power belongs to others, to the bold, the lucky, the ruthless, but not to you? Every assumption you hold becomes a script, and you act it out daily without even realizing it. The man who assumes he's unworthy of being heard will speak timidly, and people will interrupt him. The man who assumes others are smarter will defer, and they will dominate. The man who assumes he's not ready will always stay in preparation mode, watching others take the throne meant for him. Assumptions are invisible chains. You can't see them, but they define how far you move. So you must replace them consciously, deliberately. Assume that your ideas matter. Assume that your presence carries weight. Assume that others want to listen, because your conviction makes it true. The world is a mirror. It reflects not your reality, but your belief in it. When you walk into a room assuming you belong there, others start believing it too. When you speak with the tone of a man who expects obedience, people subconsciously comply. When you move as if the outcome is already decided in your favor, uncertainty dissolves. That's not magic. That's psychology. Because confidence isn't about being right. It's about making others feel like you are. The greatest leaders in history mastered this illusion long before they had proof. Alexander the Great, barely out of adolescence, declared himself divine, and the world treated him like it. Napoleon crowned himself emperor in front of the Pope because he refused to let anyone else define his authority. They didn't wait for permission. They acted like they were already chosen. That's what separates rulers from the ruled. The ruler doesn't hope the world will one day recognize his potential. He tells the world what to recognize and forces it to adapt. You've been told to stay humble, to prove yourself, to wait your turn. But that conditioning was designed to keep you small, to keep you safe, manageable, predictable. Machiavelli would laugh at that. He'd say, "You don't wait to be seen as the best. You act like it until no one dares to doubt it. Because assumption is destiny. You don't rise to what's true. You rise to what you believe to be true. So assume greatness before you earn it. Assume dominance before it's granted. Assume power before it's proven. And watch how the world, piece by piece, person by person, starts treating you exactly as you've already decided to be." Here's the most brutal truth about power. The world will never treat you according to what you deserve. It will treat you according to what you assume. You can be intelligent, skilled, even virtuous. But if you walk through life as though you need permission to exist, no one will ever give it to you. They'll sense your uncertainty. They'll feed on it. Because the world doesn't bow to goodness, it bows to conviction. Every man projects something through his voice, his posture, his silence. Every man tells the world exactly how to treat him before saying a single word. The weak man signals apology. The powerful man signals inevitability. And that signal, that vibration of certainty, is what shapes reality. If you assume you are less, you will act smaller, speak softer, move slower. You'll defer, hesitate, and self-censor thinking humility earns respect. It doesn't. It earns invisibility. The man who apologizes for existing teaches others that his presence has no weight. But the man who assumes he's the standard, who walks as if the air itself bends around him, he becomes magnetic. The world organizes around him automatically. It's instinct. We're wired to follow certainty, not truth. That's why so many fools rule over the wise. Because the fool doesn't question his right to power, he assumes it. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. Power, he said, is not granted, it is assumed. He didn't mean that arrogance makes you strong. He meant that confidence creates gravity. When a man moves like a king, others begin to move around him like subjects. Look around you. The confident man doesn't ask to speak. He simply speaks, and the room adjusts. He doesn't beg to be heard. Silence falls naturally when he opens his mouth. Why? Because people feel his conviction. They sense that he doesn't need their validation, and that makes them give it to him. Humans are strange creatures. We don't follow evidence. We follow emotion. We don't respond to logic. We respond to dominance cues. The voice that doesn't shake. The eyes that don't flinch. The posture that says, I belong. And that's the real secret. Belonging is an assumption, not a privilege. You don't earn it by proving yourself. You earn it by claiming it. When you walk into a room and assume you belong, the world follows that assumption. When you act like your voice carries weight, it begins to. When you behave like your time is precious, others start to treat it as sacred. But when you act as though you need approval, you teach the world that your worth depends on its opinion, and it will never stop testing you. This is why so many good men fail. They wait to feel ready. They wait for someone to recognize their potential. They wait for the crown to be handed to them. But power doesn't work like that. The world only crowns the man who already wears the crown in his mind. Assume it first, and it becomes reality. Confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance says, I'm better than you. Confidence says, I don't need to compare. Arrogance fights for attention. Confidence commands it. Arrogance needs validation. Confidence creates it. And this confidence is not something you find. It's something you choose. It's a decision, not a discovery. Stop asking for permission to be who you already are. Stop apologizing for wanting more. Stop hiding behind humility that's really just fear disguised as virtue. You don't need to prove your worth. You need to embody it. When you carry yourself like a man who belongs, others will start to believe you. When you speak like your words are law, people will start quoting you. When you look through others instead of up at them, they'll lower their gaze first. Because perception doesn't follow truth, it creates it. Machiavelli wasn't teaching cruelty. He was teaching clarity. The world doesn't reward fairness. It rewards framing. And your frame, the energy you bring into every interaction, determines how you are treated. Frame yourself as ordinary, and you'll be dismissed. Frame yourself as exceptional, and you'll be studied. Frame yourself as inevitable, and you'll be obeyed. Every empire in history began as an assumption. Alexander assumed he was destined to rule. Caesar assumed he was divine. Napoleon assumed he was untouchable. And because they believed it before anyone else did, others began to believe it too. That's the law of power. Belief precedes evidence. So if you've been waiting to feel confident, stop. Confidence isn't something that appears after success. It's the foundation that makes success possible. You don't act confident because you've won. You win because you act confident. Every time you walk with conviction. Every time you hold eye contact. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you're reinforcing your myth. You're teaching the world who you are, and soon you won't even need to tell the story. Others will tell it for you. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said, "The wise man appears what he must be." You don't show the full truth. You show the version that commands respect. Power isn't about deception. It's about design. You're not lying. You're editing. You're curating the perception that serves your goals. So from now on, stop performing weakness. Stop giving explanations to people who don't deserve them. Stop filling silence just because it makes others uncomfortable. Speak when it adds value. Move when it's necessary. Withdraw when it builds mystery. Because mystery breeds respect, and respect breeds influence. And when your silence carries more weight than another man's words, you've won the game. The goal isn't to be liked. It's to be felt. It's to walk into a room and make the atmosphere shift, not because you demanded attention, but because your presence made it inevitable. You can't fake that forever, but you can build it through discipline, composure, and ruthless consistency. Every time you hesitate, you tell the world, "I'm not sure." Every time you act decisively, you tell the world, "Follow me." And people will, because they're desperate for certainty. They're tired of confusion, of hesitation, of weakness. The man who knows what he's doing, or at least looks like he does, becomes their compass. So, act as if you are that compass. Even when you're uncertain, move with conviction. Even when you're scared, stand still until your fear fades. Even when you're doubted, behave as if the outcome is already guaranteed. That's what separates the leader from the follower, the ruler from the ruled. So I'll ask you again, who will you be when this video ends? The man who waits? The man who hopes? The man who apologizes? Or the man who assumes, the man who knows that no one is better than him and carries himself like it until the world agrees? Because that's how it works. The world does not obey truth. It obeys certainty. And certainty, repeated enough times, becomes destined. So stand tall, walk slow, speak little. And when you do speak, speak as though your words are history. Power isn't given, it's taken. Quietly, deliberately, through presence, belief, and discipline. Stop asking to be seen. Start assuming that you already are. Because once you truly believe it, once you move, speak, and breathe as though no one is above you, the world will follow that belief. Not because you demanded respect, but because you embodied it. And that, Machiavelli would say, is how kings are made.